Hi there! Today is finally time for the review of the new Worldbox AT210. When I saw the first pictures of this body, I was not so intrigued about it because I really do appreciate the more realistic look on Worldbox bodies. Even though they are not super realistic, they still are very beautified versions of the human body or the female human body. They also have male bodies. But of course, the girls are way more striking, and so far there's not a lot of competition for Worldbox, and they do a great job on these bodies. This time shipping took a while, so I waited over 4 weeks for this body here, and when the updates after 3 weeks nearly stopped, I decided to buy another one, which arrived in less than a week, and it was even 10 bucks cheaper than the first one. For the first one, I paid near to 51 euros, and the second one was only 41. So, way faster in shipping and way cheaper. And I guess it's only positive to have two for the reviews since there are more comparison possibilities with two bodies at once. Before you can see the full figure naked, I have to tell everyone who is new here that these action figure bodies do have way more details than, for example, a Barbie doll does have. Later on, I will censor at least the fun parts of her downstairs because I think she does not have to flash us all the time, but I also would like to give a good review that shows everything that is important. And maybe you are very sensitive to doll or figure nudity, then this is not your video, and I guess none of my videos are. Newer bodies do come with this booklet, which is very nice to look at. Nothing is censored, and especially the last pages are very interesting because you get good and valuable tips. I wish those sites would be available with all products, but so far it is not really the case. But I think they do improve, and that's good. The site with the measurements is interesting. I still don't know why they decided to put a picture of the male bodies right above that because it is a little bit confusing, but it is what it is. All the measurements are for the girls, but the picture is of all the boy bodies they made so far. What is new with the new body here is the fact that you get actually underwear, because I think there was a bit of critique since usually you see these bodies covered in some underwear and you usually never got that, but now you do have it, and I don't know if it is a big plus because the quality is very low. It is just a set made out of a very thin spandex material. The edges are sealed in a way. I think this is a kind of fabric glue they use, but you can see that the material is already tearing up, so don't expect too much. It is maybe nice to have, but it is nothing exciting. With this body, we do get the neck connector again for Blythe doll, which was not the case for the AT206, but for this body, we get it. And of course, all the extra parts that come with each and every female Worldbox body. A pair of high-heeled feet and 4 extra pairs of hands. The body is already wearing 1 pair, so you have 5 pairs in total, which is awesome. I wish there would be more hands to choose from. I know, I think now the additional ones are out and you do have more options, but I think the options they gave us are a little bit boring. I wish we would get more, but I think that is something that will happen in the future. And the hands you already get with the figure itself are very pretty. Most of the hands are separated. They can even wear rings, and overall, the design and the finishing of these here is simply awesome. Here is the first look on the new body, and actually I'm a little bit surprised by the crotch area. I didn't expect that they redesigned it. It looks totally different, to be honest, and in a good way, I think. It looks more realistic from the front, and when you split the legs, you can see that the more detailed parts are gone. Here for comparison you have the AT202, which looks very different compared to the new one. I don't think that the older version looked bad in any way, but actually I think it was not really necessary, and personally I think the new version looks better and more cohesive with the overall aesthetic of the female Worldbox bodies. So let's unbox the second AT210 to see if there are any differences between the two new bodies or if something is missing. Both items or both bodies were shipped the same kind of way. The first one had an extra padding with bubble wrap and only a plastic bag around it, and this one here simply had a thicker envelope that already had bubble wrap integrated. So same kind of protection, which is not a lot, but actually the packaging for the Worldbox bodies is so sturdy that so far I never had any problem with damaging or problems in general. Of course, the boxes do have some scratches and scuffing, but actually I don't keep them. I sort them out once I open up a new body because they simply take too much space. So for this girl here, everything was the same. Booklet, also the advertisement flyers. We get the same amount of extra parts, and the body itself is also wrapped in plastic, which is not a bad thing because without that plastic wrapping around the body, you might get some blank spots where the body is rubbing against the packaging material while traveling to you, which was the case for the male body that I unboxed and reviewed. I also unboxed another one, which I did not review so far, but he also had some blank spots, and that was not the case for any of the female bodies I opened up so far from Worldbox. When I compare them side by side, the only thing that is different is the blushing. The girl that you can see here on the right side is a bit more blushed. You can see it on her bust, but also on her belly button. I'm very sure that blushing is applied by hand on these dolls, or better said, with a kind of airbrush mask system. So far, I never had to complain about a blotchy or badly made job, but the intensity of the blushing can vary. After giving the bodies a little bit more privacy, but I will not censor the bust part, I think it does not make sense because you will see so many different comparisons with these bodies, and I think it's more distracting than helping, and I hope that's okay for you. In case you have never seen a Worldbox body before, these bodies are made out of a material mix. The arms and also the legs are made out of a harder vinyl. Hands and feet are a little bit softer, but not that much. And the whole torso part is like a softer vinyl material that is constructed around a very sturdy plastic skeleton. You will see later on everything that is possible to see, but for now you can see the movement that is possible with this body here. And since the body parts are connected with ball joints, you do have a very good range of motion. The material for this body is not sticky at all. This is a very high quality vinyl-like material. It is not flimsy. It does not have any visible seams. It is very different from everything else that I have seen so far on a book produced action figure body and also on each and every doll body that I had so far. The quality is absolutely remarkable. All the joints are tight, they are not super tight. You can still use them easily. For this body here in particular, I would say the bust joint does have a bit more mobility or easier mobility than older female Worldbox bodies, but it is not loose. Her right foot came off very easily, and I think in general this badge here does have a very minor issue with the right foot, since the inner socket of the right foot is a bit frayed out. And I think that's the reason why it is way easier to get off this foot and even to get it on. Is it a negative thing? No, not really, because changing feet on these bodies is, in my opinion, the only real struggle. Everything else, in my opinion, is very easy, but the feet are usually my personal enemy. But I do like them. I like the flat feet. I also like the heeled feet. And the tips from the booklet that you have seen in the beginning of this video gave me good tips for changing the feet, but still, it is not easy, especially not when you change the feet for the first time. So basically the range of motion for these new bodies, or for this new body, it is the same body just twice. It is simply the same range of motion as for each and every other Worldbox body, but the new body does come with 2 new extras. Here you can see a lineup of all female Worldbox bodies that are available right now, and all of them are in pale skin. On the far left, you can see the AT201. Next up is the AT202. The body in the middle is the AT203. Then you do have the AT206. And on the far right, you can see the new AT210. And for the next new body that is, I think, right around the corner, I will definitely need a new mat because there's already no more space to add more bodies. Worldbox has quite a clever strategy for selling all their bodies because they do come with different bust sizes. The AT201 does have a C bust, the AT202 has a B bust, the AT203 does have an A cup size bust, and the AT206 and also the new AT210 do have the same bust. It is the D bust. And as far as I know, only the cup D and E busts are sold separately. So in case you would like to have A, B, and C, you have to buy the corresponding bodies. And that's a bit unfair because I would also like to buy those tinier busts. But so far, that is not possible. When you now compare the AT202 and the new AT210, the measurements and also the silhouette is very similar. You could say that the AT210 is a different version with a shrunken waist. And I have to say, I have some flashbacks when I look at the cinched waist of the new body. I mean, the belly really looks like the one on a made-to-move Barbie body in case the process was successful. Of course, we already know that the lower torso part is completely new. The design is different, but the shape from the side or the arch in the back and also the shape of the booty is quite similar. I think the new body in fact does have a little bit more roundness to the booty, especially on the top of it, but in general the figure is very similar despite the difference of the cinched waist. The length of the legs are exactly the same, but the new body got the updated thighs that you usually have to buy separately. Now you do have this twist and turn joint that definitely adds a lot to the mobility of this body. And the other change they made is the upper arm joint, which I even didn't recognize when I bought the body. I guess I was so focused on the waist that I have totally overseen the overworked part on the arms when I saw the promo pictures. When I unpacked the body, it directly hit me because now the part looks so much smoother. I have to say I didn't hate the old version. I think it's quite well done. Also, in general, the older version is a bit sturdier. But for example, when you use smaller heads on the older Worldbox bodies, I think the joint was distracting, and now the smoother one is way less visible. When you turn the new one, you can see a slight gap, but it is not permanent. In general, the connection is very sturdy, nothing is loose. So I think it is a real upgrade for the design of this body, or in general for the body line, because you do not have any negative impact on the mobility and it looks less bulky. Here you also have in comparison the AT206, which also has a very similar silhouette. This body does also have a twist and turn thigh, but here they did it very similar as for the older versions with a bulkier upper arm movement. And I can see why a lot of people were not really happy about that joint. Personally, I don't mind it. I do like the extra movement better than the seamless shape, but that's of course a personal preference. And for the upper arm joint, I do like the new one better than the old one. The AT206 does also have a rotation joint for the upper arm, and I think they did a very good job design-wise to make it not so obvious. And I do like the fact that the design team of the company does the extra effort and even give all of these very similar shaped bodies a different booty. The AT206 does have a way flatter or maybe just different shaped booty than the new AT210 and also the AT202. Everyone is very unique. And speaking of uniqueness, what is also very unique on this action body line is the fact that you can nearly mix and match everything. So let's start with the busts. I think it's interesting to see how the new body looks with the different bust options, and in case you like Worldbox, I'm pretty sure you do have different models, and I think the overall expression of the body looks very different when you connect different bust sizes. For the first bust swap, I will show you how I do that. The other ones I will show you when they are already swapped. It is always helpful to remove the hands, and it is up to you if you remove the arms before detaching the bust or after that. It doesn't really make a difference. When it comes to those parts, I usually do not heat up the body because most of the time it's simply not necessary. But actually at the time I was filming this video, I had a room temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, so it was not really cold inside of my room. So the material is already a little bit softer. And later on in this video, you will see how I warm up the parts, because it is definitely necessary for doing that when you would like to remove the legs and also the leg parts. So here's the body with the smallest available bust part, and I have to say, in comparison with the OG Cup D bust, the look is very different, but not bad in my opinion. I think this bust size look even better on that body here than on the original AT203, because it does give me very Victorian age vibes. I think this here is way more accurate to a woman's body that was forced to use a corset under a bigger gown. So in case you are very talented and you can create your own clothing, this is a figure that is, in my opinion, very interesting. I would love to see a good made dress for that body shape. Next up is the B bust or B cup bust. I think it looks also very good on this body here. Of course, these bodies do have even articulation on their lower necks, so it looks better when everything is a bit more on the straight side. And I can only repeat myself, they did a great job on these busts. I think the design is beautiful. It is not overwhelmingly detailed, so not everything is always visible under each and every cloth, but it is a very beautifully shaped woman's bust, and that is the case for each and every size. Next up is cup C, which is actually my favorite cup. I think this cup is the perfect size. It is not too big, not too small. I like them all, but I do have a preference for this one here. Actually, I'm simply used to doll bodies, and you cannot find nicely shaped busts on those. I mean, the Manx bodies do have more details that usually all other fashion bodies do have, and I do like these also the most, since I think that there's nothing you should be ashamed of when it comes to the look of a nude body, and that is the case in my opinion for the female and also the male body. I mean, it is not necessary to have full detail on each and every doll body and also not on each and every action figure body, but in general I don't like the fact that often everything is wiped away, because I think that sets the wrong message. Of course, under clothes, details can be problematic, because then maybe the fashion is not the main focus anymore, but in general, I think a good amount of detail doesn't hurt anyone. Of course, we can leave out the Cup D bust because it is the OG bust and you can see it all the time on this new body. But here you do have the Cup E that is so far not available with any body. And even here, I think they did a good job. It is a very big bust. It is also very much bigger than the D bust, which is already not small. And they even did a good job on the nipple part because, of course, it is a heavy bust. When you would have this bust in real life, it would be very unrealistic to have a bust with nipples that are totally straight, especially when you do have a bra on. But this one here is way nicer sculpted than all others that I have seen so far on pictures and also in person. I do like it. It is a very comic-y, overdrawn style that you can create with this combination of bust and body, but I think it is a pretty one. And even after removing these arms so often, I cannot see any kind of wear. The joints are still super tight. Also, the new upper joint is absolutely not gapping. And I have to say, I'm always very surprised by the quality that I get for my money when I buy Worldbox bodies. Here I would also like to show you the difference in skin tone when you buy the pale version and the light tan one. There are only 2 colors available for those bodies. Sadly, I wish there would be more, and I hope we get more bodies in different skin colors in the future, but for now you can only order 2 different colors. And I can already tell you that it is easier to find a head for the pale body than for the tan one. I mean, I talked about that in so many videos, so I will not talk about that in detail right now. But in general, when you would like to buy an extra bust part for the light tan version, be careful not to buy a bust in suntan. Worldbox did change their tan color when they released the AT203. Before that, they had 2 colors, which means they still had the pale one, but the tan version was called suntan, and suntan is slightly different from light tan. And as for now, it is not in production, so you can only get bodies in light tan. And everything that you can see in suntan is old stock. I will do a different video about that in the future, but for now, when you would like to buy an extra bust, be sure that you buy one in light tan. But for now, let's have a look on the heads that could be a good match for the pale AT210. And for today, no one is new here. On the left side, we do have 2 Barbie heads. One is a bit bigger, the other one is a bit smaller. I don't think that the purple hair Odile is really collector size. Maybe she is. She's definitely on the smaller scale for a Barbie head, and the tennis player is a big one. And on the right side, you do have 2 ordinary action figure heads. The girl with the curly hair is made by Superduck, and the one with the black long hair is made by YM Toys. When it comes to color, you need a head that does have a really pale skin. And in case you're new to action figure heads, the promo pictures will not give you a good preview about the skin color, to be honest, at least out of my experience. But Superduck is relatively stable with their pale skin heads, and I would say they are most of the time the easiest fit for a Worldbox pale body, and their heads are most of the time on the very affordable side, at least on AliExpress, and therefore I would say they are beginner friendly in case you have never owned an action figure head. But here you also have the set that is included with the body. It's nothing wrong with it, and I don't know if it always comes in white or different colors. I don't know. I have 2 white sets now. The quality is not amazing, but it is for free and it does not look too shabby. The first head to go on the new body is the Made to Move tennis player, and she's already my favorite head when it comes to heads for the Worldbox bodies, even though I'm now more used also to the smaller heads on those bodies, but I still really do like her. At least with her I do have a very successful head banging, which is also always a nice thing. The action figure head that will go on the other body is, as I said, a head by Superduck with the name or number SDH033, and it is hairstyle A. For the pale skin body, this is the largest action figure head that I do have. By the way, the neck piece you can see here is not her original one. This is the only Super Deck head I ever received, which had a glued-in neck connector, and I removed that. I completely destroyed it, and I removed it. Because actually this head here, I think, sits pretty low on a neck when you do have the original neck connector glued in, and I didn't like that, so I pulled out everything that is possible, put in a little bit of putty or white magic stuff that holds simply everything together, and then just used a leftover neck connector from my action figure head fashion doll body hybrids. But I still like to use this head for comparison since it is really a big head and it is not much smaller than a collector's head for Barbie. But of course, when you compare the Playline head and the action figure head, which is already a big one, there is a huge difference. And of course, it is completely up to you which one you do prefer. Actually, I do like both sides and I really love the fact that I do not have to decide. I can like both, but I would like to show you the differences of the overall look when you pair the body together with an action figure head or a Barbie head. And you can see the Odile head is already way smaller in size than the tennis player, so it is not much bigger than the action figure head. And I think she also looks very cute on this body. When it comes to Barbie heads, you really need the very pale ones, not the vampire white ones, but everything that is around the tennis player. I wish we would get more skin colors by Worldbox, but it is a fairly new company. The product is a fairly new one, so I hope for the future we can see that. Usually also Odile is a girl that I could do a headbang with, but this time she does not want to stay on. She will also not fly off if you leave it as is, so you really don't need to modify anything for the standard Barbie head. There are a few heads that will not cling to the rubber material of the body, but most of the heads I tried on did do that. And it does not cling on because it is sticky. It is just a kind of negative pressure that is created when you put the head on the body. It is really hard to explain, but it works pretty good. The next head is also an action figure head, and her size is on the average size for an action figure head. She's made by YM Toys, and you have already seen her in the review for the Pepper doll body, and since she was not able to keep this body, I think she will get this one here instead. She is the YMT049 with hairstyle B, and she is a very good match for the Worldbox pale skin tone, but when you receive this head, you will not get it with this kind of nice hair. Of course, the hair will be the same, but I washed it and hot boiled it, or hot water washed it, because it is Kanekalon, you cannot really use hot boiling water on it. I mean, you could, but then you would not be happy about the outcome. So you need water that is hot enough so that you would not like to rest your hand in, but it shouldn't be boiling hot. Because actually all the action figure heads that I got so far need a little bit TLC, and you will have a big benefit with that. And of course, in comparison, Odile is way bigger than the YM Toys head, but in my opinion, both girls look good on this body. I would say now it's time for the fun part of the video. Not so much fun for me and my hands, but fun for you, I think, because the best part on these bodies is their durability and the fact that you can mix and match whatever you would like. The parts are interchangeable and it never ever was that easy to create your own custom body. All you have to do is to heat up the parts, because when you heat up the parts, especially the leg parts, everything becomes so much easier to be taken apart and also to be put together in the original version or the new kit bash that you would like to create. It is the easiest mix and match between these three girls because they are very similar. The legs to have the same length. By the way, the arm length is always the same for each and every Worldbox body, only the leg length does vary with the AT203, which you will see in the next round. But these three girls are very easy to mix and match and you don't have to worry to break anything. Later on, you will see that I take apart a body completely, and as long as you heat up the parts, I don't think that there is a chance for breaking anything. And I do like the fact that I could give the AT206 just standard legs and the newer arms, and you will have a completely different look. And for the new girl, the AT210, I think she looks like a game character with those muscular arms and muscular legs. And I mean, even that could be mixed up, so you could use just the legs or only the arms and I don't know, everything. The AT206 also does come with bigger arms. I did not include them now in the comparison because they are only single jointed and I don't think it is so important. But they even come together with these double jointed ones, so you would have also this option. And the now buffed AT210 looks very different from the regular one. And now it's time for round 2. Here you do have the AT203, which is the tall girl. Her legs are slightly longer than the regular ones, or simply slightly longer than all other legs. And that is the case for the upper part of the leg and also for the lower part. The separate parts that you can see here are a combination of extra parts that you can buy for the Worldbox. The OG bodies did not come with a twist and turn upper thigh joint, and therefore you can buy that separately under AT204T1. So I guess thigh 1. I don't know. I guess so. But it is also included with the new AT210 in general, which is a good thing in my opinion. And the other part, the seamless lower leg with heel part, is called AT204F3. So in theory, you do not have a twist and turn piece for the AT203 since your legs are longer. And again, for mixing the parts up, I will heat them up again. And at that point, I was a little bit impatient. I should have left the parts longer inside of the plastic bag and the cooking hot water. Because later on, you can see how it looks when you have a real hot body. It is easier to take apart the pieces. But also, I think it's a good example that you can be quite rough with these pieces and nothing is gonna break. I had a comment that some of you, or one of you at least, had a problem and the peg of the lower leg broke. I actually never had that problem, but of course, all these items are bulk made, and there is a possibility that you do have an item with a manufacturing defect, but I think that is rarely the case. But in general, I really recommend heating up the parts before you take them apart, especially when it comes to the leg parts. When it comes to the arms and the upper torso, I don't think it is always necessary, but for the legs, it is always necessary to heat up the pieces. And as you can see, it is totally possible to pair the AT210 with the legs of the AT203. You will have a little gap around the hip area, but it is very minimal, so you could give this body longer legs. And you also could give the twist and turn thigh to the AT203. You will lose the extra height then, and also the mobility will be slightly decreased because of the smaller space for the leg parts on the hip area, since the body is made for smaller legs and you won't be able to move the legs as much as with the girls with wider hips. But it will not wear out the material of the lower torso part, so you will not have any negative effect on the long run. You can do whatever you want to do with these bodies. I mean, of course, you could intentionally break them or modify them in a heavier way, but with only mixing and matching the parts of each and every body, you will not have any problem. The only body that does have really shorter legs is the AT201, and here only the lower leg is really shorter. So in case you would like to have one of the slimmer bodies together with these extra thighs and extra lower legs, it does not make so much sense if you use the 203, since you would lose the extra height on the leg, and you could do that equally with the AT201. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense because we have a lot of numbers here, but I hope you understand what I mean. So usually when you would like to combine a slimmer body with those twist and turn thighs, it is the cheaper option to use the AT201 because usually the smallest one is already the lowest priced one, but then you don't have the extra legs for something else or the longer legs for something else. So I don't know. It is completely up to you what you would like to do with these bodies, and I think it is genius, really absolutely genius that you are able to do that. Here I wanted to switch out the seamless lower leg part for the original one, but actually at that point the material is not hot enough to do that. As I said, you have to heat up the leg parts when you would like to change something. The material remains squishy after heating it up for several minutes, but it gets firm after that, and then it is not really possible to do any swapping. After heating them up again, it is possible to switch out the lower leg part without a big problem. And I also wanted to change the feet because that is always my favorite part when it comes to Worldbox. And clever me used 2 left feet. I grabbed 2 feet out of one bag, and I was so sure that only one pair was included that I even didn't look if it is a left and a right one. And I did put these legs, or better said, the feet into this bag. So I have always a left and a right so far, but I mixed up the parts, so I have to heat up the next foot. Actually, I wonder why I don't have nightmares about body parts. I think at some point I should have that, but luckily I don't, and I was finally able to attach the right foot to the right leg. But what I also would like to point out is the fact that the seamless heeled foot is a bit wider than the one that is included with each and every female Worldbox body, and that might cause some problems when you have shoes for the standard foot, which might not fit on the seamless one. I often use rainbow high shoes for those feet, and pretty often the shoes do fit both variants pretty good, but when it comes to action figure shoes, my experience is lacking since I'm avoiding the pleather stuff. I had a recent conversation with one of you about disintegrating doll shoes, and I made that experience so often with doll shoes that were really expensive when I bought them. They were not for a fashion doll because most of my collector years I spent with BGDs, and the shoes you can buy from them are pretty expensive, but still most of the time the material does not last that long, and I truly hate that. And so far I really try to dodge that bullet when it comes to action figure bodies, but I guess at some point I have to try them. But for now, I really like these here. They are very inexpensive. You get them in a few colors. And there's one specialty about the ones that do have a shiny texture, because not every model does have the same kind of material. The white ones, for example, are very matte and the material is not as flexible. But for the black ones you can see here, they do fit both type of feet. The thing is, when you put them on the wider foot, the shoe gets also widened. The material can do that, but it does not go back to its original form. Once you have widened this kind of shoe, it will stay that way, which is not a big thing. I think because to me, it looks like a normal woman feet that is squished into a regular high-heeled shoe, but I wanted to point that out. But they are very affordable. They usually cost near to €2, and I think overall the quality is nice. And you don't need the inner sole. They are only there for decoration. You can take them out because I don't know if they might stain the foot. So overall, I do like this model. Besides the mix and match aspect of these bodies, I also would like to point out how easy it is to take apart the whole body. I have never done that on camera, so I thought it is a good idea to do it now, since I think this is a body that even more people will be interested in, and I would like to point out how well made these bodies are. And actually, when you're used to dolls, for example, and even for other action figure bodies, there is actually, I think, no comparison on the market for the Worldbox bodies, because their slogan is real. They are crazy durable. You can do so much stuff with them and you will not hurt the figure. You also even don't wear out the joints. And I think that is crazy. I think that is really crazy. I never had anything like this in my whole collector life, and I think I said that in each and every video. It is so refreshing that I can play with a doll body or an action figure body without having the fear to break anything. Even not the feet that I truly don't like. I like the feet. I don't like the connection. But it's fine. Everything is okay. And I guess at some point I will be able to disassemble and assemble again those bodies while sleeping, I guess. You were able to see that I took apart each and every piece that was detachable without heating it up, and I ripped off the lower piece from the lower torso. And here you can see the little metal plate, and so far I have never shown that piece to you. It is a little metal piece that is also attached in each and every Worldbox body. As comparison, this here is the piece from an AT210, which is of course way wider since the lower torso is wider. When I started to collect the Worldbox bodies, I thought these pieces were attached to create a little bit more weight and stability, but that's not the case. There is a official action figure stand that works with a magnet and that is able to hold your figure. I love that. I would love to have that, but I can't. I tried to get the stand. It is not available on any European website and also not on any Chinese website. And I guess, or it is available on Chinese websites, but not available for me to be purchased. And I guess that is because of the strong magnets. And I think there are strict rules for what is allowed to be shipped by plane, and I guess it is not possible to send out those strong magnets, which is a shame because I think it would make everything so much easier. I mean, you don't need a stand when the body is on flat feet. It is a very sturdy body, but still would give it more security. And it is necessary when you use high heels to use a stand, or to me it is necessary, because I would be afraid that the figure's always in danger to fall over. And even if the body will not break easily, maybe the head will get scuffed or the blushing will get a damage, and that's not so nice. So I would love to try out this figure stand, but it is not possible. And while I was talking about the figure stand that I probably will never get, you were able to see me taking apart everything that I could take apart. But actually, I forgot to take apart the rest of the arms. I will do that now because it is also easily possible. Maybe not super easily, but it is possible. And also here everything is very nicely done. The pegs are strong. Overall the material is really very strong. It is absolutely not fragile in any way. And as always, my worst enemies are the feet. I didn't realize that I ripped out the inner socket of the foot when I took apart the legs. It happened to me before. I hate when that happens because this is actually the worst thing that can happen to you with Worldbox. I think each and every part is so simple to be disassembled and assembled again, but this here is not so much fun. At that point, the foot part is still squishy, so I decided to let it cool down, then put in the inner socket again and try to get out the ball joint part. In the end, I was successful. Was it fun? No, it definitely was no fun, but it came off. Nothing is broken. Nothing is even damaged beside of my hands, but the body is fine. The plastic body is fine. My hands not so much, but the body is alright. Now's the question, why did I do that? And actually, I wanted to show you the inner skeleton of the body and the great idea behind that. All the inner parts do have tiny screws, and they are there for a reason. For example, when you cannot connect the arms, the neck pack, the middle part, the lower part, you can take apart the whole thing and adjust the screws. All you need is a matching screwdriver in size PHO 60 and you're good. Mine is pretty old and not so pretty anymore, but it does the trick, so I'm fine with that. And I simply have to admit that I appreciate the engineering that went into those bodies, because we all know that quantity is nowadays way more important for companies than quality, and at least it seems so that this is not the case for Worldbox, and I do like that. I always complain about Mattel and the quality issues, and when I look at these bodies, I do have the feeling that there are still companies out there who actively think about their products, who are interested to improve them and who empathize with collectors. And that is so nice. And for me, it is a good example for the fact that we have so many new techniques and so many new materials. So we could do so many improvements on toys, but the companies actively decide not to do that, which is very sad in my opinion. Anyways, I will set this girl together again off camera because I have to heat up most of the parts to do that. And you have seen enough struggling for this video in my opinion. But what you have not seen is fashion, because I think this is a body that also needs some clothing. And when it comes to action figure bodies, they often try to sell you very easily made stuff for a pretty high price. So I decided to get a few dresses for very reasonable prices, and we will see how well they would work on this body here. And I mainly focused on lower priced items because I wanted to see if I can get an outfit for a decent price for a body that is not ordinary. Let's start with the multi-pack. I paid €6.20 for 6 dresses here. I didn't plan to use every dress on the Worldbox body because the material gets stains pretty easily, so I will avoid very bright colors. I think I should try the method to wrap the body parts into clinging foil to avoid staining. Maybe I can try that on camera in the future. I don't know. But for now, we will just try the not so vibrant colors for today. And I have to say, the green tones are really very similar. The overall quality for these dresses is definitely not bad. The fabric was cutted quite uneven, but that's inside of the dress and not very important. Also, the fabric is not sealed in any way, but it is fully sewn, so everything is okay. I will only show here how to put on the dress to make everything shorter. All these dresses are slim fitted, so I have to take out the arms to get the dress on. Only the bottom of the dress is a pretty snug fit because it is not made for this kind of body, but it is not a big deal to get it over the big hips and even over the shoulders. I have to admit that the ribbon is on its limit. I'm not quite sure if that was my fault because I was not careful enough when I pushed on the dress, because there's still a lot of give and take, but you could remove the ribbon or switch it out. It would not be that big of a thing. I think overall the fit of the dress is okay. The fabric on the back is pulling at the seam, but also not that much. You can see that there is still a lot of room, or the fabric in general is flexible enough to underline the nice shape of the body, and you can still pose the body with this dress. Here is the purple version, and I had more luck with the ribbons this time. Maybe they are a little bit longer, maybe I was just a little bit more careful, but it looks better this time. Of course, you can buy those dresses separately. I just bought the 6-pack because I can use also the other colors and dresses for different bodies. The next dress is the only disappointment. It is way too small. And actually you can see that on the seller pictures, but I had high hopes because I already have similar dresses in blue and yellow, which were free gifts from a different shop, and I thought this pink one here would be the same, just a different color, but it is actually not exactly the same. The fabric is different and also it is smaller. I mean, you can even see it on the flower decoration because the blue version even has some kind of tulle between the flowers, and that's not the case for the pink one. The pink one only cost me €1.80, and I will just use it for a different doll, so that's fine. But here, just for a better impression of the size, this is how the blue dress would look on this Worldbox body, and maybe you also have this dress at home and it would fit this body pretty nicely. The next set was part of a 2 outfits for 1 price deal, and for the dress that you will see after this set here and this set, I paid €3.70, so overall a good deal, I think. I mean, I will not use each and every part of this set here. I mean, I couldn't use the shoes anyway, but that's not a big deal. I will use it for someone else. And I'm also not a big fan of the bag and the hat, but I don't have a problem with the fuzzy jackets. I tend to like fuzzy jackets on dolls. The dress is very simple. It is not hemmed. It is just cut on top and bottom. They sealed the fabric with heat or maybe a little bit of glue, but to me it feels like they slightly melt the fabric a bit, but I don't know. I mean, I think it is better done on this piece here as for the underwear, but the underwear is for free, so I should not complain about that. And when the dress is on the figure, I think it looks quite good. And you could tuck under the top and bottom part so that you cannot see the fabric that tends to tear a little bit. It is not super fragile, but you could see that with a closer look. And when you tuck under the raw edge, you cannot see it at all. You could use a pair of tweezers. I thought it might help. Not quite sure if it really does, but it does not look that bad in the end, at least from the front. And I like the fact that I could use even the jacket together with this body, so that is pretty nice, I think. This dress here is the other part of the 2 for 1 deal. So I paid for the set you have seen before and this here together, €3.70. And I have to say, it is always the same kind of material that works with this kind of body. I have to admit that. It is not always exactly the same fabric, but it is always the same type. The finishing of this dress here is nicer than the finishing for the first dresses. The sewing is well done and also the shoulder straps are elastic, which is of course a big plus for a body that does not meet the criteria for a standard Barbie body. And here you have it on the body. It does fit, but it is a snug fit. This time I had to pull the dress over the top part of the body because here the top part is the part which is the smallest. And as you can see, it is a bit too small because the slit on the leg is way too wide open. I mean, it is still kind of a look. I do really like the top part because I can decide if I would like to wear the straps on the shoulder or down the shoulder, and I do like the look, so you could make this work. The seam in the back is not that pulled, and overall it is still a good fit, just that the top is a bit snug where it is hemmed, and also the slit is very much revealing the whole leg, and maybe you like it, maybe not, but I think it's not too bad. The next dress cost me €2.60. The fabric feels a little bit plasticky, but not too bad, it's okay. The dress definitely has to be ironed. The stitching is good, there's only one longer loose thread, but that's fine. I do also like the sleeves. I don't have the impression that the fabric is very fragile, and that's good. And I also like the look on the figure. It is like a very cute summer look. You could wear the sleeves like you would like to wear them, and that's also a big plus. I should have ironed the dress, but I had no time for that, and I will do that later on, but I like it. I think it looks good. It's not a snug fit. Also, the elastic itself is not overly pulled. I do really like this summer look, and I like the dress on the picture so much that I decided to get shoes for this dress, make them work for Worldbox, but that's not the case. And also the shoes do not really look like the seller pictures. On the seller pictures, they look nice and shiny. In person, they are not. They cannot even stand, and overall, this shoe here is really bad quality. I mean, at least they are not broken. The plastic straps came loose when I tried the shoes on the foot for the first time, and they are simply too small. I mean, the base length would be long enough for Worldbox, but the top part of the shoe is just way too small. This shoe is also way too big for tall or curvy Barbies. I also don't think it would fit on a rainbow high doll, maybe on the junior high dolls. I don't know, maybe that's the case, but overall, I have them now. Maybe I can use them in the future, who knows, but when you see them, don't buy them. The last set or the last dress is not new to me. I already have this dress, and I think most doll collectors do have it because the quality is nice, the price is okay. I paid €2.50 for it. It looks nice on Barbie, but I know that it fits on Worldbox as well, so I got it again for this body here. This is the only dress in the haul that is closed by Velcro. It is a good quality Velcro, but the fabric of the dress is still very delicate, so when the fabric got caught into the Velcro, there will be some damage. And the dress does come with this extra part for the neck, so I guess you can have the impression of a turtleneck, which looks quite nice in my opinion. The overall quality of this dress is very good. I think it looks also very nice on this Worldbox body. The only snug fit is for the arms, since the dress is not made for this body type, but it is absolutely doable. As always, you have to remove the arms to put on the dress, but that's everything, and I think it looks good with and without the turtleneck piece. So as you can see, you can even get a very affordable, nice dress for this kind of body, where you can see the very uncommon figure, and it is easy to create a complete look around this basic piece. And of course, there are also tons of clothes for action figure bodies in general, and sometimes you even find good stuff for not so much money in this category. And here you do have the two girls for today. I have to say I really like this very mini dress on the tennis player, and the body with the YM Toys had simply got the same styling as she had with the Chili Toys body, just with high heels this time because I don't want to change the feet again. Obviously, I had filmed the try-ons before I disassembled and then assembled again the bodies, so now they do have heeled feet and they will stay that way, at least for a while. And so she also lost her hat, which is fine I think. The look also works with a more chic styling. And that's it for today. And well, that was the video. I had a few days to film on it since there is quite a time between heating up the parts and taking them apart and putting them together again and all that stuff. But the video is done. I was able to upload it because otherwise you would have not seen it. I don't know if I will succeed in uploading it really on Sunday. I'm pretty sure it is after midnight, at least for everyone who is in Europe. But hey, I hope this video will be interesting for a lot of people who are interested in this body, because as I pointed out earlier, I think it is important to show others that quality is even possible today. It is not something that is meant to be forgotten or that is part of the old, long gone time. This here is a product that was made for modern collectors. It is a great piece that is sold for a good and reasonable price, and I wish that would be the case for way more companies out there, regardless if it is a toy company that has its focus on shareholders, kids, that produces stuff for kids, or like the company here that makes collectibles for adults. I think quality should be an issue for all parts of toy development and manufacturing. Oh, guys, I'm always talking too much, right? Anyway, I hope you had some fun with this video, and I hope you had a good weekend, and I hope you will even have a better new week. I hope to see you again next time. Bye!